Hey guys, Language Hacker here, and bringing you another 5-minute video. This time we're doing Rush Warrior, pretty popular deck in the meta right now, very tempo heavy, very oriented, and it's kind of a meme because people think it looks like an arena deck, which honestly kind of does. I've drafted some arena decks that actually look a lot like this. Maybe not as much consistency, but in the same vein. Okay, let's go through it real quick. A lot of early to mid game, you curve out with a little bit of finishers, a couple of finishers here at the end. General mulligans are Athletic Studies, Ganarg, Stage Dive, and Crab Rider. Sometimes you can consider keeping Parade Leader, and if you have a Crab Rider, you can consider keeping Rakara as well. Against tempo-heavy matchups, you can consider keeping Warmaul Challenger and Sword Eater. Tempo-heavy matchups include Token Druid, Paladin, Rogue, the Mirror, stuff like that. Decks where they get on the board really fast and you need to have minions or stuff that helps you deal with that until you get your stuff online. Generally, you just want to play stuff. Eventually, you play Conditioning. If you're in a very quick matchup, you can play Conditioning very quickly, which buffs minions in your hands, but it upgrades the longer you wait. At 5 mana, it upgrades your it gives your minions +2/+2, and at 10 mana, +3/+3. You generally don't play Conditioning as +3/+3, and you generally don't play it as +1/+1 unless it's a very fast matchup where you don't have anything else to do and you need to buff the minions that you're going to play the following turns, where you don't think you're going to get play it before turn 5. But in some slowish matchups, you usually play it on turn 5, buff more things in your hand so you get more value out of that, and then push your advantage after that. There's a couple of cute things you can do and that you should be aware of. Parade Leader buffs all the rush minions that you summon. So you want to be playing this before rush minions if you're playing multiple things in a turn. You can use these in combination with the second half of the bumper card, the death rattles that you get back in your hand, or just any rush minion in your deck. Playmaker works in a similar vein, but instead of buffing it, it duplicates the minion with 1 health remaining. And that does mean that it can copy a bumper card, which means you can get 2 times the death rattles from that. It works with Crab Riders left over, with Wind Fury if you happen to keep them alive. It works with Samuro. Also, the second Samuro with 1 health can't get Frenzy because it just kind of dies. But there's some combo stuff you can do with Playmaker and Parade Leader to make your board a bit more threatening to deal with. So generally, you just want to build up a bit of a board up till turn 5, but you don't want to all in at all times if you have Conditioning, because then you get, like I mentioned earlier, you want to buff some minions a little bit, because if you vomit your hand and then your hand is just Conditioning and like another minion, the Conditioning's kind of yucky. In some cases, you can't help it. For example, Hunter's a very aggressive matchup where I almost never play Conditioning unless I literally have nothing else to do with my mana, because you just need to get on board as fast as possible, overwhelm them, and then that's how you win the game. This deck is pretty solid against a lot of the tempo-heavy decks in the meta. It's particularly good against Rogue, Hunter. It holds its own against Paladin, and obviously in the Mirror. Not great against Priest, not great against Mage. So if you're facing a lot of those, it can be a little problematic. However, some of the cards I've included here you might see are a little different than what you might see on HS Replay. People tend to run double Shield of Honor. I've included double Cutting Class. I feel like against Mage and Priest, you can get run out of resources a lot more often. And Shield of Honor helps push some early advantage in terms of some extra chip damage face, or if you Divine Shield the minion with the Shield of Honor, you can get a trade-off, keep your minion alive, but generally use it to push a bit more damage. And I thought that generally doesn't close out the game for you. Sometimes it can, and of course, if you prefer Shield of Honor, go for it. But I think having Cutting Class can help a little bit more against these slower matchups where normally when you get gassed out because of all the removal or efficient, cards, you can draw a little bit more, get a little bit more value. It also helps with stuff like Conditioning. You can Cutting Class on 5, then Conditioning even more minions to get more buffs in matchups like these. So it's a little bit flexible in terms of what you want to be doing against tempo, aggressive decks or slower decks, and you have to change your game plan accordingly, but generally that's how you want to do it. Play stuff on curve if you can, buff stuff with Conditioning. You have ETC as a potential finisher as well if you just need a little bit more damage. Throw this out with some bumper card, death rattles, get some extra damage on face if you can't immediately hit them in the head. You do have a lot of weapon swings as well, 2 Sword Eaters, 2 Ganargs. All in all, that's 12 damage if you get all 4 weapons. 3, 6, 9, 12, 24 damage. 24 damage if you get all 4 weapons. So that's a lot, and that adds up. So if you have a weapon-heavy hand, don't be afraid to swing face. Otherwise, you want to use the weapons to clean up board, to protect your minion so that your minion can hit them in the face. Finally, late game. Troublemaker, jam this on the board. Summons 2 3/3s every turn. If it can't be dealt with, you generally win the game. Alex, sometimes you get blown out in terms of like removal. Your board gets Soul Mirrored or Hysteria or whatever, and you might need a little bit extra damage to push through, along with the sword swings you get from Ganagon Sword Eater. Alex can also just be your finisher in terms of going in terms of damage going face. And finally, Watley is very, very important here as well. Again, you have the problem of gassing out sometimes if you're just playing stuff on curve and vomiting everything out. Eventually, sometimes your board will get cleared. Ringmaster is very important for some refill. It draws bumper cars as a mech, it draws Sword Eaters as pirates, and it draws your finisher Alex. And that's the deck. Put stuff into play, hit them in the head with the sword if you're pushing for lethal. If you're not pushing for lethal, control the board with that. Save conditioning until turn 5 if you can, if it's a slower matchup. Otherwise, just use it when it's good. And yeah, have fun. Let me know what other decks you guys want to see. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. And hope to see you next time.